Hello there, and welcome to the second of a three-part series about improving your essays. Now, this is all related to IELTS Task 2. In the earlier episode, we got as far as just analysing the introduction, and in this one, we're going to look at body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2, and the principles that I'm going to teach in this one are the same principles that I teach with the IELTS sentence guide, and that's the product that comes with 6 essay checks, so you get it really personalised. And these are some of the more advanced components that I teach, but the thing is, with the sentence guide, it's more related to your essay. Okay, so if you've got some entirely different problems, then I wouldn't teach you these. Okay, but if you've got these problems, then I would obviously correct it and show you how to do it. And I'm going to go into more detail today. So, to refresh your mind a little bit, I'll tell you the question, and hopefully you've got a pen in your hand and you can take some notes, because that's the best way you're going to get the most value from this podcast. If you write down the body paragraph, analyze it, and see if you can correct the mistakes first, because this is a good skill to have, especially when you're practicing. So first of all, I'll give you the question just to refresh your memory. Let's go. Employment is becoming an increasingly elusive goal for many graduates. Some say universities are failing in preparing students for the future, whereas others argue there is a fundamental fall in the caliber of graduates. What are the reasons for this? Has the quality of graduates dropped? So you can see there's 2 questions. Okay, there's 2 questions in that actual question, and what I would do is structure my essay addressing those 2 direct questions. So the first paragraph, or the first body paragraph, would go like this. And now this is a this is a very poor quality paragraph, and I still want you to write it down, take notes, and you'll be able to hopefully edit it afterwards. So grab a pen, and I'm going to go through it now. Nowadays, it is a well-known fact that it is impossible to get a job immediately after finishing uni, because everybody is looking for the same positions when they graduate, making it more difficult, and the number of graduates is increasing, full stop. Lots of graduates doing and finishing uni makes it tricky to get a job. For example, my cousin did his final year and finished uni, but is still doing work in the local Burger King in Leeds. Now, if you didn't copy all of that down, go back, listen to it again. Don't worry if you didn't copy it all down, because I was going pretty fast, but you can just listen to it again, pause it, go back. But I want you to really analyze it and see if there are any ways you could improve it. Okay, so first of all, let's see. I'll give you a quick overview. The first sentence is just too long. There's too many ideas there. Yeah. There's an unnecessary repetition of ideas. Okay, well, first of all, it's just too long. Yeah, and it's not very well it's not constructed very well. There's another problem, that it's we used colloquialisms instead of the proper names. We said uni instead of university, which is unacceptable. We have to write the full name out. Also, there's too many ideas and the repetition. So let's have a look. First of all, the writer is saying that it's impossible to get a job. They say after finishing university, then they say there's everybody's looking for the same positions, and then it's making it more difficult. And here there's too many ideas all mixed together and a lot of repetition. So what we could have really said was that there's an increasing amount of graduates searching for similar positions, which is increasing the competition for these positions. Okay? And it's much more succinct and eloquent than going round in circles like the writer did for this sentence. Now, another problem was there's a repetition of the ideas, because it says immediately after finishing university or finishing uni, then later it says when they graduate. Okay? So there's a complete repetition there. If somebody finishes university, they're graduating. So we have to reorganize the sentence in a way that avoids this repetition. Now, the next problem was there was a lack of hedging. Hedging is when you avoid giving your opinion and presenting it as an absolute fact. For example, here, it is a well-known fact that it is impossible. Okay? This is a massive generalization, and we should have really phrased it in a way that we could have said something like, it is increasingly common, or it is thought that it is increasingly common. Let's see now. What could we say? Yeah, it is increasingly common to encounter difficulties when searching for employment upon graduation. Yeah, and there we've rephrased it, and we didn't have to say the really clumsy way of mentioning it, then putting it back, then bringing it back. So that's one way we could have edited it. Also, there's another problem, and it says because related to the hedging, it says because everybody is looking for the same positions, and that's false, because if somebody's graduated in dentistry, they're not going to be looking for a position as a geography teacher, obviously. So be careful when you're using expressions like a well-known fact. Then make sure that it is a well-known fact. Like, I don't know, instability, political instability in Africa and the Middle East is a well-known fact. Okay, or the American economy is one of the largest in the world. This is a well-known fact. Blah blah blah. Okay. Now, just one more thing. We could have edited as well for making it more succinct. It says here that the writers put looking for the same positions when they graduate, making it more difficult. All we could have said here was competition, and just mentioned the word competition, and that explains in one word what's really happening, instead of saying making it more difficult, which is a very clumsy way of saying it. Now let's have a look at sentence 2. Sentence 2 said lots of graduates doing and finishing uni makes it tricky to get a job. So what's the problem here? First of all, we've got the unspecific verbs, which doing and finishing, and we could have just said graduate, or we could have said upon completing, and especially if we've already said finish before. And doing is completely unnecessary, because if they're finishing uni, obviously they have attended university, or they have done the university course. So it's surplus to requirement. We could just delete it. Later, the writer says uses uni again, which is incorrect. Not incorrect, but inappropriate. And then what is inappropriate as well is that it says makes it tricky to get a job. And we've already said something well, first of all, tricky is not really the most academic sounding words. To get a job, and we've already covered this idea in the first sentence when we were talking about job competition, the increasing number of graduates, and all the rest of it. So when you do write your essay, make sure that you are not repeating ideas, because this will affect your cohesion and coherence score, because it seems like you're going around in circles instead of taking the reader on a journey from your topic sentence, which is your first sentence, to the end of the paragraph for your body paragraph. And you want to make it concise and easy to read, and you go from one idea to the next, not repeating, not going backwards and forwards, but just progressing in a logical way. Okay then, so I would have just deleted sentence 2. Now sentence 3, I'll read it again. For example, my cousin did his final year and finished uni, but is still working in the local Burger King in Leeds. Now this example is completely inappropriate because it isn't well known. Nobody knows this cousin, and because they don't know the cousin, it's difficult to relate to the example, and if you can't relate to it, you can't really determine whether it's true. Now the more academic way would have been to just cite a study. Now you may think, I don't know any studies relating to this point, so you can just invent it, and you could say recent governmental studies showed that 33% of graduates often stay in their position, in their temporary job position, for up to 2 years whilst looking for, or whilst searching for a professional position related to their choice of studies or related to their professional field. And in that example which I just gave you, I used a professional position because more than likely we would have already used job or employment. And what I did was I used more vocabulary to avoid repetition and pick up points for my lexical resource. More specifically, it's called topic-specific vocabulary, which gets you points, as well as collocations, and professional position is also a collocation. So make sure that you can present your example in a very professional way, and do not use personal examples. My cousin, my dad, my brother, my friend. No, you have to make it into like a general one, and this way you can convince the examiner, but it has to be believable. You cannot say something like, for example, recent studies show that 99% of graduates end up working in McDonald's until retirement. Okay, something like that is just completely unbelievable. Now another problem with that sentence, I'll just read it again. For example, my cousin did his final year and finished uni. What's the problem here? The problem is that it's we've repeated the same idea like 3 times, and this is what we did in the earlier sentences as well. We've used did, and of course he did his university course if he's managed to finish it, and we've said his final year and he finished. Well, of course you're going to do your final year if you're going to finish university. It's impossible not to. So we could have just said, for example, upon completing university, recent studies show graduates blah 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 blah. Okay, and I didn't want to say upon graduation because more than likely we've already used it in the earlier sentence. So here's one way I edited it before. They said often graduates continue in their temporary positions, for example, recent studies show blah blah blah. Okay, now moving on to paragraph 2, and paragraph 2 will correspond to the second question in the actual question. Remember, it was employment is becoming an increasingly elusive goal for many graduates. Some say universities are failing in preparing students for the future, whereas others argue that there is a fundamental fall in the calibre of graduates. What are the reasons for this? Paragraph 1, body paragraph 1, has the quality of graduates dropped? Paragraph 2. So although it's badly written, for task response, the writer would have picked up some points because they have followed the question. They haven't gone off and talked about, I don't know, employment in Burger King, for example. They've followed the question and addressed the actual concerns of the writer of the question. So body paragraph 2 is completely related to the quality of the graduates. Has the quality of graduates dropped? And it's rather direct as well. Here is what the writer wrote. The quality has never fallen. Why would it? Technology has improved lots. Testing can be now done in a more effective automatic fashion. In Scotland, it is a well-known fact that employers complained, whinged, and practically cried about the problems of new workers missing days from employment, and some take things too. Hopefully you wrote that paragraph down. If you didn't, go back, write it down, and then I want you to edit it and try and look for some of the mistakes that the writer did in the earlier paragraph. Maybe you could look for problems with repetition, vocabulary, is it concise, is it precise? Have a look for those errors. Now then, let's have a look. So, first of all, the quality has never fallen. Why would it? Here there's a problem with the, once again, it's a massive generalization. Has never. Never means 100%, and we cannot be completely certain of that, so we can't really say it. The quality has never fallen. We'd have to hedge it and say, more than likely, the quality has not fallen. Something like that. And then the writer asks a direct question. Why would it? That is not recommendable. Okay? Why would it? It's just too direct. Too direct. Why would it? It's kind of almost aggressive as well. So I would avoid making a direct question in your paragraphs. Okay? Especially in your body part, well, any part of the essay. The next sentence, technology has improved lots. Now, you've just said a statement, but you haven't, well, the writer does go on and back it up, but it doesn't really correspond. Okay? Now, the writer could have said technology has improved lots. Nowadays, it is common for students to have internet access, tablets, and advanced learning apps to improve their academic development, for example. But the writer doesn't say this. He says the technology has improved lots. Testing can now be done in a more effective automatic fashion. Okay, so he's basically saying that tests can be automated, which is true, but why would this improve the quality of the graduates? It wouldn't. Unless you went on to say this automation enables more tests to be administered, therefore increasing the frequency and more than likely encouraging the students to prepare more. And therefore the end result would be a better, more prepared graduate, something like that. But we didn't go on that. We didn't take that direction, unfortunately. Okay? We should have developed that sentence, developed that statement like I just did. But what the writer did instead was go on to a completely different thought, and this is a complete lack of cohesion. The writer gave an example about Scotland, and the example didn't really correspond to the earlier sentence. And because it didn't correspond, it makes the essay lack cohesiveness. I'll give you the sentence. It says, in Scotland, it is a well-known fact that employers complained, whinged and practically cried about the problems of new workers. Now, if we'd have related that to the lack of testing, or the fact that there were no tests, or there wasn't enough tests, then we could have linked it, but it's not. It's just complaining about the quality of the workers. So this is quite a big problem. Now, let's go into more detail about that sentence before. Technology has improved lots. Testing can now be done in a more effective fashion. Can you see any problems here? First of all, technology has improved lots, like we said, that's quite vague. And then we've got vague words. We've got general words when we could have used more specific verbs. It says testing can now be done in a more effective fashion. We could have said tests can be administered automatically, or test taking can be automated, or the testing process could be automated. Yeah, instead of effective automatic fashion, more effective automatic fashion. That's 4 words. And we could have just said automated, and we could have even eliminated done. And if we did really want to use this word, we could have used a more specific one and said can now be administered in a more effective automatic fashion. Okay. Then we go on to the next sentence. In Scotland, it is a well-known fact. What's the problem? What's the problem here? The problem is we've used that phrase again, a well-known fact, and really it isn't a well-known fact that employers have complained about the quality of the graduates. There has never been a massive report or anything like that, and it's not general knowledge, this. So we should have phrased it in a way that in Scotland, a recent study showed, or in Scotland, 33% of the principal employers of the country stated blah blah blah. Okay, and we just invent it. It sounds kind of a little bit immoral, but at the end of the day, we just need to show the examiner we can write in an academic fashion, and if what we're using is realistic and believable, then that's fine. So I corrected it and I said in a recent survey of prominent Scottish employers, and this just makes it sound a little bit more formal, more academic. Okay, and then the writer goes on and says complained, whinged and practically cried. This is just way too inappropriate. Okay, it's too strong, this language, to whinge. Whinge is when a child is complaining at his to his parents. I want some sweets. I want some sweets. Why don't you give me some sweets? This is like complaining in a childish fashion, and it's very unlikely that prominent Scottish employers whinged. Okay, so we'd have to change that, and we'd have to say something like prominent Scottish employers were discouraged and disappointed with the recent outflow of engineering graduates from the leading universities, something like that. Okay, and once again, it sounds much more formal. It's not as strong, and we have avoided using the well-known fact phrase. Let's go now. The next sentence, and I would have really separated these or linked it in a more eloquent fashion. Anyway, what the writer did was they just carried on, and they said the problems of new workers missing days from employment, and some take things too. What's the problem with this? First of all, we haven't really used very accurate vocabulary. Okay, we've used some take things too. We could have just said theft or stealing, problems of stealing. And likewise for the first part, we said new workers missing days from employment. There is a specific term for this. We could say absenteeism. Okay, absenteeism is when employees do not turn up to work. Colloquially, it's called pulling a sickie in Australia. I think that's the origin of the term. If you pull a sickie, you ring work and you say, I can't come to work today. I'm ill, and then you go to the beach and throw some snags on the barbie. Yeah, but formally it's called absenteeism. Okay, and actually, just to clarify, pulling a sickie is doing it immorally, saying you're ill when you're not ill. When absenteeism is when you are probably ill or either faking it, but it covers both, whereas pulling a sickie is just the immoral way to do it, to have a day off for free. Now then, another problem with this sentence. I'm practically cried about the problems of new workers missing days from employment, and some take things too. Now, to improve this to the next level, what we could have done was make it parallel and make it correspond. Either side of the clause and make it equal, and we could have said problems of new workers missing days and stealing items. And this way it makes it sound a little bit, it just flows better, and it's better style. It's a more academic style. Well, not a more academic style, it's just better English writing. You make them parallel. We could have done it even more sophisticated way, and we could have said the problems of absenteeism and theft, and used the nouns instead of the verbs, and it was more concise and more succinct, which are other characteristics that we would like to develop in our IELTS essays, especially if we're aiming for the band 7, 8s and 9s. This is what happened with one student. I was teaching in the sentence guide. It comes with the guarantee of jump to a band 7 or it's free. There are some conditions, but one student came and she was getting 7s and she needed to get to an 8, and implementing these techniques, improving her vocabulary and avoiding all the normal problems, we managed to get her to an 8. I think I might be interviewing her soon. Her name is Yana, and she actually got to an 8 using these strategies, so they do work. And if you want to find out more, you can just send me an email, ask me about the sentence guide, or just go to IELTSPodcast.com and have a look at that sentence guide. And it's a course. You write 10 essays. I personally check 6 of those essays, and I teach you personally how to implement all these techniques, the parallelism, how to check your essay and all the rest of it. Okay, now going back to the final body paragraph of that essay. Like I said before, it does correspond to the question, but it's too short. It doesn't develop the ideas, and like I said before, there are 2 ideas and they're not really connected. One was about technology and testing automation, and the other was about Scotland. These should have been linked in a more coherent way, and I would have just gone for one central idea throughout the whole paragraph, and I would have just developed that idea of testing, and then say an example that backed up my argument about the testing. Okay, about the first idea that I had, and kept with that and made it easier to understand and read. Now then, I've gone a bit over the time limit that I was expected to do, but I would like you to now go to IELTSPodcast.com, sign up if you haven't already signed up, send me an email, tell me what you think, and have a look at the sentence guide, because if you're stuck at 6.5 or if you're stuck at a 5 or a 6, whatever, I'm pretty certain that this can help you. And plus, if you do meet the criteria for the guarantee of jumping to a band 7 or it's free, then it will definitely you've got the guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose. And another thing is, it's €50. I think I'll be increasing the price again soon, because I want to start developing more. I want to develop it more and make it even better, and to do that basically requires more material and probably some more essay checks. Okay, so have a look at it, try and get it before the price increase. And yeah, if you've got any questions, just tell me. Just send me an email. And another thing, it is €50. The price is probably going to increase soon. And I don't know if you've heard it yet, but I did an interview. I don't think I've released it yet, that's why. With Mega. She took the test 13 times. $300 a time. That's $3,600 she spent on trying to pass the writing task. I've had emails from students saying they've taken it 19 times. Some have taken it 6 or 7 times. Stop doing this. You're throwing money down the drain. What you need to do is get some help, invest in a guide that's going to guarantee that you do not have to take it again. And when the program works, like the sentence guide, when it does work and you get the 7, then you do not have to spend any more money retaking the test. So it kind of pays for itself. So if you are serious about improving, you do need to get feedback. And the sentence guide not only gives you the feedback, but it also gives you the instructions of how to build your essay, how to get ideas, how to avoid that horrible problem of your mind going blank. And yeah, I'm really proud of it because I'm getting emails almost on a weekly basis saying thank you, Ben. Yeah, so have a look at that and send me an email if you've got any questions. But the most important thing is to keep pushing on, keep working, and eventually you'll get there. Okay, all the best and keep on it. Speak soon.